All right, here we go again. Yet again, another movie review. You guys like my review of The Matrix, whatever the hell the fourth one was called. I already forgot the name. After Resurrections. You guys like my review of The Matrix Resurrection so much. Thought I would come back and do it again for The Batman. I know I'm a week late, but I do have a reason for that. Unfortunately, inside of Japan, the movie was released a week later than it was stateside, so to most of my American audience that watches this channel, I know I'm behind on the times to get this to you. But anyways, I'm ready to talk about this. I think I'm going to join both of the reviews together inside of one video. At first, from here on out, I'm going to give my non-spoiler review over this movie. And by the time I finish that, I'm going to make an announcement. And at the very end of this video, I'm going to give away the spoilers, which isn't really that much, but you guys don't want anything spoiled, so I'm going to keep it like that. I'm starting to lose my voice, and I think I'm going to be talking for a little bit more than 10 to 20 minutes here, so I got a drink by my side, but man, I hope I don't lose my voice in the middle of this. I got a lot to say. I literally got my notes right here in front of me on my iPad Pro. I'm going to be reading most of this stuff off of what I wrote. I wrote my thoughts down on this thing immediately after I walked out of the theater. So there's nothing that I left out. I think I got everything, absolutely everything that I want to talk about. So let's get into it right away. This movie is very easy to explain because to its benefit, it wasn't overly complicated or all over the place. It had a strong start to captivate you from the very beginning, from the get-go. And from the very beginning, like when you watched the Joker movie inside of the theaters for the first time when it came on, you knew, just something instinctively told you that you were watching something special and you knew it was going to be a great movie. You get those exact same vibes watching this. Just from the time it started, you knew that it was going to be a fantastic movie. And I was not wrong about that whatsoever. At the time that the movie ended, all I started thinking about was, is this better than Batman Begins? At first I said to myself, yes it is. And then after thinking to myself for about 10 to 20 minutes, ultimately I came to the conclusion, no, it isn't better than Batman Begins. But this movie does have its moments, and it certainly has things that it does better than Batman Begins. Some things are not as good, but overall, it wasn't the better movie. The movie seemed more like a movie in the traditional sense than a comic book movie adaptation, if that makes any sense at all. The things it got right, Batman, it definitely got Batman right. Robert Pattinson spent more time in this movie in the Batman suit than out of it. He was a great Batman. I know he had his naysayers out there proclaiming that this guy was going to muck this thing up because he was in whatever that vampire show was called that he was in that everybody hated him when he was like a teen heartthrob or whatever. That guy has graduated since then. He's moved up to bigger and better films like he was in Tenet. Nobody complained about him in that, so I don't know why you thought he was going to be shit in this movie. But he is, or has turned out to be, a fantastic actor. If he wasn't before, I never saw him in the vampire show, so I don't know. But yes, he was a great Batman, and this is the first time that we truly got to see Batman as the great detective that he is. Having the moniker the world's greatest detective, we can actually see that now has never really truly been portrayed inside of any other Batman movies. Yes, he may have had some extremely light detective work in Batman Forever, trying to also solve some of the Riddler's riddles, but that was fairly quick and forgettable. And like Batman Begins, this movie has a great ensemble cast through and through. Robert Pattinson is great as Batman, though he's kind of very forgettable as Bruce Wayne. Jeffrey Wright, who was in the 007 movies and other great movies. I first saw him in Shaft in the year 2000, Shaft with Samuel L. Jackson as the villain. He plays a great James Gordon in this movie, and he's every bit as good as James Gordon is as Gary Oldman was. They're on par with one another. Zoe Kravitz was as good a Catwoman as Anne Hathaway was. They were on par with one another. The triple threat of villains was extremely well done. Some of the best that we have ever seen. Paul Dano as the Riddler and Colin Farrell as the Penguin, and holy shit, John Turturro as Carmine Falcone. Oh my goodness, did he play the hell out of that role. If you guys don't know John Turturro, he's kind of a Italian-American actor. Me being an African-American, I first seen him in Do the Right Thing in a Spike Lee movie, and he did good in that role, but he's been in other roles since then. But yeah, he's a very good actor. He killed it as Carmine Falcone, better than the one that was in Batman Begins. With as long as this movie was, a little bit too long in my opinion, Andy Serkis's screen time was negligible, so he was barely given enough time to play a really great Alfred. He was good in the role. There was nothing that he did wrong in this movie, but like I said, his screen time was negligible, so he really his Alfred was underdeveloped as opposed to Michael Caine's Alfred, which is still the better Alfred as it stands right now. Maybe that could change come the next movie, but yes, everybody acted the hell out of this movie. There was not one bad acting role inside of this movie. That's all I can say. The negative points about this movie. This is in no particular order. Bruce Wayne, again. Batman aside, Batman was great, but Bruce Wayne was underdeveloped, and he was a little too emo inside of this movie, in my opinion, when he should have been more of a playboy. And there was just not enough Bruce Wayne inside this movie for him to be a developed character. He was completely lost as a person. I mean, here he is trying to save the city as Batman the whole movie, but he did fuck all, absolutely nothing to save the city as his counterpart, Bruce Wayne. He probably could have had more of an effect as Bruce Wayne than punching the hell out of people as Batman inside of this movie. With some philanthropy work and some other things, he probably could have touched and saved a lot more people. I mean, as Batman, what is he doing? He's only beating up criminals, but as Bruce Wayne, he could have helped people that were not criminals, but people that are in this shithole of a city suffering. So he could have did more to help these people. I'm sad to see that he did absolutely shit inside of this movie to help his community. Another bad thing about this movie, it was too long. Bits and pieces could have actually been cut here and there to trim the fat off of this movie and to take about 20 minutes off of it altogether. The last 10 to 15 minutes of it or so could have especially been cut. Once I get to the spoilers at the end, I'll talk about what that last 10 to 15 minutes was. But yes, the last 10 to 15 minutes especially could have been cut. This was the most grounded in reality Batman movie that we've ever got. More so than all three inside of Christopher Nolan's trilogy. But as seriously as this movie took itself, once we made it to the last 10 to 15 minutes, then it became too fanatical, fantasy, comic booky. And the ending could have came earlier than what it did, and I would have been happier with that. Lastly, the score. The music composed by Michael Giacchino is probably the most forgettable score ever in any DC movie in recent or long-term memory. It was completely forgettable. That's how bad it was. The things that the movie got right, the story and the acting. Everybody was great. What am I? Hold on, I'm missing something here. Yeah, I mentioned that before. Everybody was great. The trilogy of villains here were juggled extremely well. This movie could have easily been the mess like Spider-Man 3 was, the Tobey Maguire Spider-Man 3, but it wasn't. All right, I'm getting close to the end here. If this is neither good nor bad, this is just a notice. So all my bad points are finished. This is just a note to parents out there. If you've got young ones, be very cautious. While not an R-rated movie, this is a pretty oriented movie. Pretty adult-oriented movie. How could I forget that word, adult? Pretty adult-oriented movie. The violence is heavy in this. Very brutal. Just be aware, nothing really, really bad, but for a Batman movie, it's the heaviest that it's ever been. That's one more thing. Another negative point that I failed to write down here, but I do remember the action sequences inside of this one, as good as they were when they happened, the action was very light. But yeah, I would say that the action was very light, but I was just happy to watch the movie regardless, as the story was so good that kind of it didn't really matter that much. So you're not really missing out on much. But yes, there were a few set pieces and they were extremely well done. But everything in the Christopher Nolan trilogy as far as action-wise was better in those movies. This one was passable, but yeah, it could be better. Hopefully it's going to be a step up in the next one. All right. All in all, this movie gets my seal of approval. A great way to start off a new series of Batman movies. Hoping that the next one could do a little more to stray away from the Christopher Nolan path. We've already seen those movies. And I get this is a grounded Batman movie. But we need to keep bringing in things to keep it fresh. I'd like to see Robin return to the screen, if I'm being completely honest with everyone. All in all, I'm going to give this movie 4.5 out of 5 stars. Is it better than Batman Begins? It comes close to coming on par with Batman Begins, but is it better? No. Is it on par with it? No. It just falls just a little bit below. So, now I'm going to get into the spoilers. If you guys don't want to hear this, just turn it off right now. I gotta have a quick drink and clear my throat, man. I've been talking loud all night with my friends, losing my voice here. All right, getting extremely close to wrapping this up. What are the things that I want to spoil? I did not write these things down. I was saying that the last 10 to 15 minutes of this movie probably need to be cut. At the end of the movie, the Riddler is apprehended by Batman. Congratulations, you got the villain alive without killing the guy, mind you. After he brings the guy into custody and he gets taken over to Arkham Asylum for being a complete maniac of a whack job character, the movie doesn't end there. It turns out that this fuck has planted bombs all over the perimeter of the city, and his plan is to fucking flood Gotham City. Batman did not pick up on all the clues, and he solved every riddle except for the very last one. And the last one led to the locations of these bombs, which he did not... Batman did solve the riddle, but he didn't solve it until the very last moment in time. He could not make it to the bombs on time. All of these bombs went off, and they destroyed the dams that was protecting the city from the ocean or the bay or wherever the hell Gotham City is inside of this movie. It's kind of like a New York City replica, so I'm imagining that it's kind of like an island very near the coast and near the ocean. He blows up all these dams, and then the city starts flooding all over the place. Batman has to go and start rescuing people from inside the city. The mayor and a bunch of people retreat to like a Madison Square Garden type Gotham Garden Arena, whatever the hell the place is. People are going there to be safe and to protect themselves from the flood. And sure enough, all these Riddler wannabes that the Riddler had kind of encouraged to take up his mantle after he was gone had besieged this fucking arena. Probably like 10 to 20 of these guys with machine guns dressed just like them. They come up inside of there shooting up the place, trying to kill everybody. Batman is in there. They're trying to kill him too. And just the whole concept about these additional Riddlers being there has just become too fanatical and comic book like. The movie would have been more grounded in reality and more realistic had these guys not shown up and had this fucker not blown up all of these dams to flood the city. He should have just apprehended the guy and the movie should have just ended like that. It just became too fake. So the whole grounded in reality concept was just completely thrown out the window come the last 10 to 15 minutes of this movie. So I hated that. Yeah, I hated it. It brought the score down from being a 5 to being a 4.5. So that was completely shit. Another spoiler inside the movie. This is neither good nor bad. The guy inside the cell in Arkham Asylum that was in the neighboring cell as to where the Riddler was apparently the Joker and will be the Joker inside of this continuity of movies. Yeah. The Riddler thought that he had failed because his guys were caught. The people were being saved and Batman prevented more of a catastrophe than would already had happened with the bombs going off. Riddler saw it on the news. I don't even know why the news was playing inside of his little quadrant of the cell or whatever, but he saw it on the news, which is just crazy that the fucker would have had a TV down there in the first place to even see this thing. Who would leave the TV on for these guys to watch? They're in a fucking mental ward. But anyways, right. So he saw this thing on the news and he started crying and whining. Oh, I failed. And the guy inside the cell next to him said, no, you didn't fail. You were an encouragement to us all. I can't remember verbatim what he said, but he said, you're kind of like an encouragement to us. There will be more of us. And then he went from being whiny and crying to being more like feeling proud of his actions based on the guy's reaction to him in the cell over. But that guy is supposed to be the Joker. The actor's name is out there somewhere. They didn't show his face too good. You kind of get glimpses of his face behind the bars. But yeah, this actor, his name is out there on the internet. But you got to go search for that because I forgot what it was. But so they introduced Joker inside of this movie. Will he show up in the next one? Who knows? But he will show up eventually before this trilogy or before this. Who knows how long this series is going to be. Hopefully it's longer than 3 movies. But hopefully he'll show up in here sooner or later. So I guess we'll see him there. But yeah, those are really the only two spoiler things that I had to say. One about the bombs. The other one about all these other Riddler copycats going out there fulfilling his destiny or his job. And the third one was about the Joker. So that's everything that I want to touch on. But all in all, it was a great movie. I highly recommend it to everybody. It's not everybody's cup of tea. I was already out here up on Facebook looking at people's reviews. And there's some people, the Zennials, that could not handle the 3-hour time. Because, you know, everything needs to be fucking explosions all the time. And the movie needs to be done within an hour and 30 minutes to sustain their silly ass attention span. So they don't like it for that reason. But they don't have any real warranted reason to hate the movie other than the fact that it's too long for them. It's too long for me in the sense that it has fat that needs to be trimmed off of this movie. Had those 10 to 15 minutes been warranted to make the movie stretch from like 2 hours and 40 minutes to 3 hours, I'm all for it. But I just felt like it was just, yeah, that was kind of bullshit there at the end. So they should have just trimmed all that out. They could have just cut off, and they could have cut 20 minutes, about another 5 minutes, throughout the movie. That bat signal went off so many fucking times inside this movie, and Batman shows up every single time that thing goes off, and they're showing him riding to his destination. Yeah, he didn't have to go to the bat symbol as many times as he did inside of the movie. I didn't count them, but I'm sure it was a fucking lot. He didn't have to go there that many times. They could have cut some of that stuff. And they didn't have to show him driving there the whole time. They could have cut some of that as well. So, and there was just bits and pieces of other things that they could have cut. But yeah, they could have trimmed the fat of this movie. Good movie. Just go watch it. If you're a Batman fan, you'll love it. If you love all the Christopher Nolan movies, you'll feel right at home with this one. You'll love it. It's up there with being one of the best Batman movies that there is. But I got to be honest with you, I did not enjoy it more than Batman Begins or The Dark Knight or The Dark Knight Rises. All three movies in the Christopher Nolan trilogy was better than this. Was it better than Batman 89? I'm not sure. I'm not sure about that. Bruce Wayne was done so much better. Batman was great in 89. Bruce Wayne was great in 89. That was a very solid movie. It was a solid gangster movie. The Joker was great in there. Maybe Batman 89 was the better of the two movies. Fifth. This one is my fifth favorite Batman movie, I would say, after the Nolan trilogy in 89. So, but does that make it a bad movie? No, it does not. Like I said, 4.5 out of 5 stars. If I was to put that out of 10, what is that? Help my dumb ass out because I'm not good at math. That would be 8 out of 10 stars. Fairly good movie. Very, very, very good. Must watch. I'll be watching it again in theaters, and I will buy the Blu-ray and all that shit once it comes out, man, because I just absolutely adore the character of Batman. It's kind of hard to fuck up a Batman movie, but it has been done before. But I don't think it's going to be messed up any more than what it has been in the past. But all right, let's close this thing out. I thank you guys for watching. Like, comment, subscribe, and I will see you guys in the next one. Until next time, peace. I'm out. Oh, and P.S. There's one more thing that I forgot to mention. I saw this in IMAX. IMAX is the only way to see it. The sound quality and the sound mixing is so well done. If you watch it inside of any other movie theater that is not as good as an IMAX, not to say that you're going to have a worse of an experience, but yeah, you probably are. The sound quality is so much better in the IMAX theater. You got to go see it in IMAX. And when you see it in the IMAX theater in Japan, they give you this at the door. Man, check that out. How cool is that? So this is definitely going up. Maybe not necessarily behind me, but it's going up somewhere inside of my apartment. You gotta love that, man. How fucking cool is that? Anyways, that's all I wanted to say. Just please go see it in IMAX. That's the only way to see it. All right, I'm out. Later.